So we have three different types of groups that are collaborating. The collaborative inquiry, where this is our symbol to think about it, all hands on deck and working on the same question and wondering. That is the key that guides you to know which type of group you have. What is your wondering? So you're going to hear me keep asking you that each time there's any confusion. If you have different wonderings, then you're not collaborative inquiry and you're going to have separate. And even with it being collaborative, there are still portions that need to be independent. You all are in different settings. So this part is going to be independent. You need to describe where your own coming to this wondering and your own setting. Now the significance and review of literature, since you have the same wondering, then this can be collaborative. However, the key that I want to point out is that that you can't delegate this to just one person to write. Oops, I didn't mean to change the slide. Each member must contribute to this section, and it should not be assigned to one person. So if you read different articles, you can write your own summaries and then put them together, and you guys can share that in your own final product. And I will not be thinking you plagiarized each other. That will be clear to me that you all contributed. Also, so in the research plan, you're going to have an independent portion. You'll have to describe your own context and participants, but you could also collaborate on the methods. And that should be pretty similar if you're all implementing. So I've discussed with one group the idea that they might be implementing a reward system. So that reward system and the data they collect, those can all be exactly the same, and they should be across each of yours. If you want to compare how you need to implement it all with the same fidelity, which means we're always going to do the same instructional sequence or use the same system and give points for the same reason. And we're always going to collect data on the same day and the same amount of times. So that part can all be the same. And then your results and findings. You're going to have results that are specific to your setting, but you may also have a section where you compare the results. So I've posted GeoMara and Monifa's example where this is exactly what they did. Monifa describes her setting, but then she also includes the results from GeoMara's setting. Your discussion is going to be mostly independent. So this must be your writing and speaking, although your ideas could be similar across the group. So say you came to similar conclusions about this. So I expect to see that, but I expect it to see your own words describing those conclusions, implications. And then your conventions and overall presentation will be independent. So again, that is collaborative when you have the same wondering. Now, a parallel inquiry you can think about as you're building you're both building homes, but you're building different homes. And the settings are different. The construction is different. So you can see this is primarily independent. What is the point then of working in a group? Well, there's still ways you can collaborate. So Your purpose might be similar. Oops. This one. And discussion. Remember, we talked about the reason collaboration is important is also teacher talk is important. So the more you're discussing the issues that you're coming across or the different ideas in the literature, the more you're understanding what you're going to be doing. So you might have different studies in your review of the literature. But your discussion of those different studies will, in group time, will help you with the writing portion of that. Your research plan is also going to be independent. You have a different context, participants, and methods. They're all unique to each group member. I should do that with a different color. Independent, independent, independent. Your results and findings will also be unique to your setting and your wondering. But getting feedback as you go through the process of collecting the data and summarizing the data will help you understand that more deeply. When it comes to your discussion and conclusion, again, this should be independent because it's specific to your unique. You have different wonderings and your discussion and conclusions are going to be different because your question was different. However, always getting that feedback from your group and checking with them. Does it make sense? Would they have come to the same conclusion? And talking it out. That is the goal of parallel inquiry. Okay, and finally, you may have an intersecting inquiry. So we can think about this as 3 different houses on the same street. They might have something in common, but they also have their own unique situations or their own focus. So I also thought about putting an image up that talks about, I was trying to find something that was like the supervisor of the construction site versus the actual builder on the construction site. The supervisor is interested in the whole system, what's going on, while the builder is interested in the tools they're using, the plant, like interpreting the plans. So that's as far as my analogy can go for that. So what it looks like for intersecting inquiry is that some things, it depends. So this really depends on what your wonderings end up being and how related they are. So your background and purpose might have similar settings, but the purpose, so you could be, oops. You have similar settings, but you find that the purpose is different. So you're both at the secondary level, but somebody's in SDC and someone else is in the resource. And so you're looking at, my goal is, what does this look like with these students? So something, or you're both like looking at the same type of strategy, but you want to see it in different settings. So something is the same as something is different. The significance and review of the literature is most likely going to be primarily independent because you will have to draw from different studies pertinent to your questions. Then again, when you come to the research plan, there might be something overlapping. Like, again, the context could be overlapping. Some of the methods may be overlapping, but most likely, if you're looking at different angles, your methods will be different. But again, this, just to clarify, this is going to have to be group by group and situation by situation. Then when it comes to results and findings, they will definitely be independent. But again, discussing the intersections with your group is going to help you develop your insights more clearly. Finally, your discussion and conclusion will be independent and specific to your questions, but you may share similar revelations about the intersection with your group. So some conclusions could be very similar as long as they're in your own words. Okay. In conclusion, you could take a look at what this research to practice and the purpose of teacher inquiry, and how your goal, since we are entering new territory in this distance learning setting, is to try something from the old news and apply it to the new situation. So you are creating your own evidence base about what works or doesn't work in this setting.